Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to talk about the Codron teaser that we seem to have gotten for season 3 of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. At least I'm assuming it's that because, I mean, just the way that it's sort of worded, I mean, based off of the ending, I think it confirms that that wasn't the ending for the character. So yeah, I do want to talk about that. So before going further, make sure you be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. I will be doing my Q&A this Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. And so if you want to join the Q&A, definitely go and join the Discord. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. I'll leave a link in the description of this video, and yeah, I'll ask for some questions either like tomorrow or the next day, and then I'll do my Q&A on Wednesday coming up here. But in terms of content for The Walking Dead, there's actually quite a bit of stuff that is coming out right now that I do want to talk about. There's some stuff with Clementine and some other things. There's actually a new look at Dead City that I do want to get into, and I do expect a lot of stuff like that to come out over the next like month or so. Obviously, things are always quiet around the holidays, sort of like early January, but like over the next like, you know, couple of weeks here, there still could be some stuff that does come out. And then into January and February is where I expect a lot of new information coming out for Dead City Season 2, because that show's likely coming out around March or April, somewhere around there. So, and the first thing that I saw here that I found really interesting was this Codron teaser here that I saw. So the Codron teaser is actually this image here that The Walking Dead shared on their official accounts, and it says, missing, have you seen this man? Last seen heading into the tunnel towards the United Kingdom. He may still be in there. And then it says The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, the Book of Carol. Now, the reason why this is really interesting is because the way the episode ended, a lot of people assumed right away that that was the ending for Codron, because as soon as the episode was over, I saw so many complaints about that. Like, oh, I love the episode, but I'm really, really disappointed in terms of how Codron's story ended because he just ran off. I mean, for me personally, I never really assumed that he just ran off. Like, I thought right away, like, well, obviously there's some sort of, you know, I guess future for the character, because it ended in a way where it's very, very, you know, it's open to the possibility of bringing him back at some point, because it wasn't really an ending. He just sort of ran off, and Daryl and Carol are also in that tunnel. We know that they are going to get out of the tunnel. Does Codron eventually get out of the tunnel? Does he follow them? Like, what happens at this point? Now, this teaser here, I do think basically confirms that he will return at some point here, because if his story was over and like that was the end of Codron, I don't think we would be seeing this right here where it says missing, have you seen this man, right? Like, I think that this confirms that this is sort of a thing that they want us to talk about or want us to, you know, wonder about over the next, I don't know, however long, but, you know, where's Codron kind of thing, right? And I do wonder if he will be a part of season 3. I think that's one of the things I'm really happy about in terms of the show, you know, going into season 3, is that we actually do have a lot of characters from season 2 and season 1 that are going to be in season 3, right? Like, in terms of characters that can show up again anyways, because we have Laurent and Ash, like, obviously we're going to see them again at some point, either in the very last season or whenever this reunion between Rick and Daryl happens or whatever, because they're going back to the Commonwealth. Something is going to happen where they reunite, so they'll be back at some point, but Codron is also out there as well. So, like, there's still all these connections to France, and, like, again, that was the one thing I was concerned about, was that going into season 3, it was basically going to end with Laurent's story over, like either Ash dies or something like that, and then Laurent's story basically ends with him staying in France and like everything's peaceful, and then Codron dies at some point, because it seemed like he was going to die for so long, right? But no, it actually ended in a way where, yes, Daryl and Carol are on their own going to Spain, we're going to meet new characters, but Codron could show up at some point, and we are going to see Laurent and Ash again, right? So I'm really happy about that, because I think it's important to sort of connect all the seasons together and have everything in this show feel really connected and like it's a part of like one story, right? And so I think that this teaser here does tease Codron's return, because it just makes sense. Like, I don't think you're going to have a big character like that on the show, you know, have their story end like that. I think that would be kind of insane in my opinion. So in terms of how he gets out of the tunnel, I think that's one of the things that I'm really interested in, because he went absolutely insane. And so Daryl and Carol, I don't even know if they would have made it out of the tunnel if it wasn't for those masks that they had, right? Because they found them, and that was how they were able to actually get out of there. And so Codron, does he eventually find one somewhere? That's possible. Obviously, there's not only just like 2 masks somewhere, but it's also scary because there's walkers everywhere, right? Like, there was bioluminescent walkers where we saw, you know, them first enter or whatever. Who knows what happens later on in the tunnel. And so I expect that, you know, the possibilities of survival here are definitely going to be very low, but I think Codron obviously will make it out of there. It's just how. And I do hope that we get some sort of backstory on that in some sense. Like, it would be kind of interesting actually if in the future we saw Codron and then all of a sudden, like say an episode ends with Codron's return, and then the next episode we get like a standalone Codron episode. I don't know if they would do that anymore, but back in the day they did that, right, with the governor, where he showed up out of nowhere and it was like, whoa, the governor's here. And then we spent 2 episodes focused on the governor's backstory, which at the time I did not like at all. But looking back at it now, in terms of having scenes with the governor and having a story with that character, I definitely really appreciate those episodes now. And so I think that, you know, having something like that for Codron, honestly, it could be a really amazing character episode, a really amazing moment to explore the character, how he survived, you know, I guess that, and his journey to finding Daryl and Carol again. I think it could be honestly a really incredible episode. So I would love that, but in terms of, you know, how they tell stories, I just feel like they're not going to do that anymore because it's only 6 episodes, which I know I complain about a lot, but that's what I mean though. Like, that's what's missing from this. And I've seen that complaint quite a bit over the last however long. Like, people are complaining about this a lot. Like, it is a big issue here, right? Like, only 6 episodes, like, you can't focus on a lot for the story. If it was 8 episodes, so much better. Like, even 10 episodes, honestly, I think it wouldn't be the biggest issue. I know that the budget, like I hear that being brought up quite a bit, like, well, the budget kind of, you know, it stops them from being able to do more episodes like that or what have you, because episodes cost so much now. I think just have an episode where they're in the woods or like they're in one room talking about this or that. Like, that stuff honestly works really well. If you look at The Grove, like, that episode was basically them in the woods the entire time, and there was like a house setting. Like, it was one location, and you know, I think that stuff does work. It really does work. It all depends on the writing in terms of making the scene really great. You don't have to show us all these amazing locations, have the visual effects and stuff really incredible for it to be, you know, I guess watchable. Like, if the story's really great, if the acting is amazing, I think you can do so much with that. So that's why I think, yeah, more episodes for sure. But in terms of Codron getting his own, you know, episode like that, I just don't see it really playing out like that. Like, I think if Codron returns, it's going to be one of those things where he's either with a new group or something like that, and they're just going to explain it through dialogue or whatever. And, you know, sometimes that works. I just think that based off of where the show has been, I just think that they need to give us a little bit more than that. You know, I think that's sort of, it's so funny because, like, that was always our complaint for so long, is that we always see everything. Like, we see too much of everything, right? Like, when you look back at certain moments in The Walking Dead, it's like, well, they mentioned this, and so now we have to get a whole episode focused on that backstory. And I feel like now they're going to the whole other side of it, where they're like not mentioning anything, and now things are becoming a little bit more unbelievable, right? Like, if anything, it was better to see all of it, even though it was sometimes boring to watch. It was at least, you know, believable. And so for Codron, I think, like, he's going to London right now, obviously, once he gets out of there, unless he ends up back in France. But I guess that's really the 2 options that he has, right? Like, I think he goes back and then just ends up in France again, or he's in London. And how he gets to Spain, I have no idea. That's going to be something that, you know, is definitely going to be very tricky for the writers to figure out, unless the story somehow, you know, gets them back to France in some way, or going back to the Channel or back to London. I think then it could work somehow, because I mean, I don't think they're going to be going from place to place. Like, yes, that is kind of cool to think about. Like, you know, the characters right now, you know, they were in France, now they're going to Spain. Where are they going to go next? But I think traveling everywhere is something that, I don't know if it's the best thing for the story. I think right now it's hard to say because, you know, we're just going into season 3, but I just feel like, you know, having a certain location, like having the show not about the locations, I think is definitely smart. Like, I do like the fact that we are seeing different parts of the world, but if that's the whole thing about this show, is that we're just traveling everywhere, like it's basically Ride with Norman Reedus, but it's on The Walking Dead, I'm not the biggest fan of that. So Codron somehow is going to have to find them, and they're going to have to somehow make all those connections here. Like, maybe it connects with the CRM. Like, I could see that. Like, maybe Codron returns with the CRM somehow, because I think that is something that makes the most sense as of right now anyways. Like, if you think about it, Laurent and Ash went to America, or I guess the Commonwealth. They're going to come back with the CRM, obviously, after they've talked with Rick and Michonne, and they told them, like, Daryl and Carol are in France right now. They're going to go to France. They're going to find out, you know, more information about where they're at. I believe that's why Falou likely stayed behind, is so Falou can tell them they went through this tunnel or whatever to go to London to try find a way back. And so I imagine they're going to try and go through the tunnel. Maybe that's how they find Codron, and then eventually they get to London. And then I don't know how they connect that to Spain. Like, that's where Daryl and Carol are, but I could see a connection there somehow, and that's how they eventually get to Spain. Because the CRM, I think, will be a part of the story, to be honest. Like, I really do feel like that is something that could come up in the next couple of years. Like, not right away, and I don't know if it's going to mean, you know, in terms of Rick and Michonne returning on the show, I don't think that's going to happen right away, but I could see the CRM being like, you know what, we're going to go out here and try and find Daryl and Carol. And, you know, maybe that's how they get back home at the very end, right? Is the CRM save them basically and bring them back. Like, I could see that, or maybe they try to, but, you know, it fails, but somehow Daryl and Carol make it back themselves. I think the CRM will be involved in a lot of this here. It's just that, you know, in terms of Rick and Michonne being with the CRM to go there, I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like, well, Rick and Michonne just got back, so they're staying back for a little bit, but we're all here, you know, like they're there. Maybe that's sort of an end game or an end story or whatever for the show. I could see that. But yeah, in terms of this Codron teaser, though, it is exciting because I think that it does confirm for sure that he is going to be back, because obviously I think there was that concern that maybe that's how his story ended overall, but I think this confirms now that it is sort of, you know, that's sort of the question that they want us to be asking is like, where is he? Did he make it out and all of that, right? So I think that, yeah, it's really exciting, and I can't wait to see more from Codron. I can't wait to learn a lot more about season 3 here, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. Definitely post our thoughts down below. Make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this, and I will be doing my Q&A video on Wednesday, so definitely go and join the Discord. The server name is Appetite for the Dead. Again, I'll leave a link in the description of this video. I'll ask for questions on like Sunday or Monday. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.